All right, so my name is Bill Doran, and the public lecture that I attended was Avi Loeb. Um, he is from the Harvard Astronomy Department, and his lecture was titled "The Case for Cosmic Modesty." Um, so, starting off, I was instantly interested when I heard, who was going to be speaking. This was a person that is listed as the top 25 most influential people in space by Time magazine. So obviously, this was a person who's influential, who's kind of on the cutting edge. So I was really interested to see what he would choose to talk about because he's such a, he's someone who knows a lot about a lot of different things in astronomy. So I was really interested to see what he would pick specifically for his public lecture. And so yeah, the title was "The Case for Cosmic Modesty." I didn't really understand what, how modesty could apply to astronomy or anything like that. But he quickly explained that as being, thinking that we are not special, being that we have life on Earth. There are so many great things in the universe that we are not special, and that modesty that we gain through understanding that is really important to discoveries and being open to new things. One of the specific things he talked about was like habitable planets and planets that could have life in the universe, and the different likelihoods and all these different kind of you know characteristics of a planet that could contain life. And this is actually something I had kind of had experience with because I took a class last semester, an EAS class called Making a Habitable Planet. So I knew some of the stuff he talked about. Like I knew about the Drake equation, and I knew about how in the observable universe there are just millions of habitable planets, and about how there's different things about star life and the habitable zone, like distance from the star where there can be liquid water. I knew not a lot, but I knew a good bit about all those different factors. But I learned a lot from his public lecture. I learned a lot about how there are so many more factors than I knew, than I thought I knew, that went into life. Water is one of the biggest things, but one thing he talked about that I hadn't really considered was that the only life we know of requires liquid water. He talked about how, hey, maybe there's other sorts of life that don't require liquid water that we haven't really considered. And if that's the case, then the chances of life on a planet just go up exponentially because we don't need water anymore. And he sort of talked about how all these different things about, well, yeah, and then he also brought up that there are 10 to the 20th power habitable planets like Earth in the observable universe. That's a number that's obviously like impossible to even wrap your mind around. And to think that there are that many planets that could have life, it's pretty silly to think we're the only planet that does have life. The numbers just, it makes zero sense for us to think that we're special in some way. And so that's the cosmic modesty he's talking about. It sort of gives us, he wrapped up the talk by saying it gives us a balanced worldview. We are made up of heavy elements that were produced by supernova. We aren't, that we are just a product of the universe. And he said there's no bigger lesson than we can observe. I thought this was really interesting. There's no bigger lesson that we can observe from astronomy than that we are a speck of dust in the big scheme of things, which is almost a little bit depressing because we consider, since we're alive, we're so special. And he said, don't let that discourage you, but on the contrary, understand that it's a very special time that we live in, where we are going to be discovering a lot of new things in science in general, in astronomy specifically, and then also about life in the universe. It's a special time that we're going to learn a lot of things, and we need to be open to what we discover. And one of the things that I was not expecting at all from him was this. He talked about his sort of almost a side project that he's been working on, which is called the Star Shot, which has to do with this sort of group of projects called the Breakthrough Initiatives. And he talked about this just insane idea where, you know, in order to explore a very far distance, you could push a sail of 1 gram with 1 gram of electronics with a laser to 1/5 of the speed of light, which is just insane to me. But it makes sense too, because like that that's possible, I guess. The math and all that goes over my head, but the fact that that is feasible, goes back to what I'm saying. It's a special time we live in where stuff like that is going to happen soon. We're going to be able to reach parts of the universe that we would have never even dreamed of reaching. And I think his point in bringing that up was not only to be really cool, and that inspired me and thought, that's cool that you can be a professor and like a lecturer and also do real world involved stuff like this breakthrough initiative. But it also, goes back to being modest and saying, you know what, chances are we're going to find some really, really cool stuff in the universe. And we're just kind of a speck of dust and all that. And we have to be open to what we discover, and we have to keep seeking it, because now's the time to do it. So yeah, incredible lecture, and I learned a lot. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it.